Welcome back to Grown Folks Table Radio. I'm Megan Liana with Tavon the Great in the building.
Divine greatness. I'm in here.
Greatness.
I'm here. What's going on?
We're going to get into these hot topics. Okay.
Yes, please.
What's up with Funk Flex and Dame Dash? Like, this is getting out of hand. This whole thing.
Now brief me, because I did briefly see on Instagram that Dame Dash had posted something about Funk Flex being a coon. What did he say? A chair coon or something.
A chair coon. For real. And, you know, it's
Funk Flex is not making the best of relationships these days.
This whole year, I feel like he's been on one. For one, I kind of canceled Funk Flex when he made that whole Tupac statement. And
yeah,
I was kind of like,
that.
okay.
I fell off of him for a minute. I felt that was completely out of line, out of context.
Out of line, out of context, and just not the right year. Like, why, for one, why say that in 2018?
Right.
You know, that you're kind of late.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I really didn't like him with the whole when he was against Nicki Minaj for a while. I'm a Nicki Minaj fan. And I was kind of like, what's the issue? Why are we going against, you know, a fellow queen, a fellow New Yorker, a fellow black woman? You know, and it's been little stuff here and there. But then this whole thing with Dame Dash is like, why? It's like, I feel like he likes to jump on a bandwagon. He's like a bandwagon commentator.
Yeah, to a degree.
And to me, I think it's taking away from his credibility because Funk Flex is like a classic DJ.
Yeah, he is. And he's a pioneer DJ in the game. You know, when you get the Funk Flex bomb, it makes it heightens your credibility and your abilities to do whatever it is you do. But as of late, I don't know what's going on with. I think he getting old. Like, I think Funk Flex is one of those people that's getting old and senile, and he just feeling like he can say whatever he wants. But for whatever reason, man, I think he's just saying a lot of wrong things, man, and rubbing people the wrong way. And Dame Dash right now is like the ultimate guy that you just don't want to get into particular beefs or bashes with, because he holds a lot of weight and he does a lot of things that, you know, Dame Dash makes you pay attention. And so
very true. And I feel like, because, you know, there was the whole battle of the boss talk versus employee, quote unquote, slave talk. I feel like, for one, as somebody who's been a business owner and as somebody who is an employee as well, and I've done both, you know what I mean? I think that sometimes, like, I feel like now it's turning into a battle of credibility and pockets.
Right.
And I think, for one, both of them are legends in their own right. You know what I'm saying? Like, Dame Dash, and let's be real, I can care less what, like, every business owner has an exit plan. So when you have a business, you want to sell your company.
Exactly.
You know, you want to sell out. You want to have somebody buy your shit, and that means you sold something. You know, that's every business owner's ultimate dream. I'm going to build something, and I'm going to sell it to this motherfucker, and I'm going to triple what I invested in it. Gotcha. So you can't call somebody a failure for selling their businesses, because that's the end result, you know, as a business owner. Mm-hmm. And you can't call somebody a slave because they've mastered their craft in their field, whether it's a job or not, you know? So I feel like the conversation is changing, and it's like, we can't discredit either one of them and their history in hip hop. Like, let's acknowledge the history of hip hop that they've both contributed to.
Absolutely. And I think that's, you know, that goes without saying. Like, you can't deny their influences in hip hop. Now, as far as the debate from boss and employee, that's a process within itself. Like, you got to start working somewhere.
Right.
And for those people who have the credentials and the ability and the resources to start out the gate with their own stuff, that's credit to them.
Right.
But for the common working people,
right,
even if you're working towards creating your own brand and your own empire and stuff like that, we find ourselves having to work, save up, do whatever it is financially that we have to do in order to get out of that particular rat race that we in.
Right.
I don't knock it, because somebody's going to eventually have to work.
Exactly.
Even if you're and even if you're being a boss or a owner of a company or something, you're going to hire workers.
Right.
So, you know, if you're hiring and you're going to hire workers who are just going to help build your brand.
Right.
You know, when you get into a bunch of people, like if you own the company and everybody that you hired eventually was trying to do what you do, you wouldn't really have them.
Right.
You know? So it's one of those things that, and it's funny because, you know, Dame Dash is just one of those guys. Like I said, he makes you pay attention, but he also is a ranter. And so he will hit points, but sometimes I'll just be like, all right, Dame, we get it. But, you know, everybody's not going to be able to follow your exact blueprint to the T.
I think it's the delivery, too.
Oh, hell yeah, it's the delivery. Because I love Dame Dash,
right.
but I always thought, like, when I met Dame Dash and having conversations, I was like, 9 times out of 10, I just hate the way he's delivering the message to me. Like, I'm gonna soak it in, but he'll be one of those guys that I'll be like, all right, Dave, I don't like the way you're talking to me though.
Right, like I fuck with Dame because
text it to me. That's what I just text it to me, Dave.
But I feel like if he texted to you, he'd be one of the motherfuckers. You get a text, you got to read that shit like 3 times. Like what the?
And you'll be forced to read it in his demeanor, like he's still cussing me out. Like, nah, I'm good, bro.
And I think that that's part of what was Dame Dash's, I don't want to say downfall, but if you look at, you know, where his career went, and let's look at the whole Lyle Cohen history. Yeah. You know, he moved forward with Jay-Z. And everybody knows Jay-Z, he basically, you know, he made sure that he fit into the business model. Because like we say, we always want to rub elbows. You know, we want to do that crossover. We don't always want to stay within the hood, stay within the black community. Right. And sometimes we want to reach across the aisle. And Jay-Z was able to cross over and do that because he's not the hothead like Dame or Kanye. Exactly. He can come with the cool head and get the business done. And I feel like Dame Dash and his delivery is what has been his downfall in his career.
Mm-hmm. More, yeah. 100% agree. 100% agree. Even if the things that he said, which I agree with, wholeheartedly, but it's in his delivery. I can see where people will even consider what he's saying jewels and gems, but like deep down in their core, emotionally, they feel like this was, you just being disrespectful.
Right.
You shitting on me, even though you giving me great advice. You shitting on me.
But you're shitting on me in the process.
And I don't want to be shitted on right now, okay?
And I think in that defense mechanism, that's when people are like, yo, fuck you.
Y'all, yeah, fuck you.
Fuck what you saying. Like, who cares? Because it's not, I feel like, and even I've had to learn, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. You know, my mom would always tell me you can attract bees with honey and not vinegar or whatever that shit goes. You know what I mean?
Listen, them old school quotes and shit, they come in handy once you become an adult.
Right.
But that used to be some shit I used to be like, I don't know what you're trying to say to me right now.
Right.
I've never seen bees near vinegar anyway. But okay, Grandma, you're right. You could attract bees with honey more than vinegar. Not that I'm trying to fuck with bees at all. But
right.
I get it.
But then when you get older, you be like, oh, that's what she meant. When it's like,
that's
damn.
what she meant.
Because there have been plenty of times where I've personally had to learn, even, you know, being in business. It's like you can hold your own and you can be strong and you can be commanding. And you can say what you got to say, but you still don't have to be disrespectful. Right. And I feel like sometimes Dame Dash is so disrespectful.
Yeah, he is. Dame Dash is a disrespectful businessman.
But you can't knock it because, you know what I'm saying? I mean, he let Lee Daniels borrow $2 million when nobody was fucking with him. So you have to look at that, and it's like, and you would have never known that had he never put him out there when he didn't pay him back. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. It's like it's one of those catch-22s because it's like, okay, he's a businessman. He looks out for his people, but just the way he be talking.
I can't wait to be able to say I lent one of my people's $2 million.
Let me loan somebody $2,000. Like that's let alone $2 million.
Because like, I would just hope that people understand. Like, yeah, you're definitely gonna have to pay me back.
Right. $2 million, and it's an investment. Like, talk about more money, more problems, right?
Yeah. That's deep. That's deep.
Right. Well, we want to hear what you think about that. Join the conversation. Make sure you hashtag Grown Folks Table Radio. Make sure you're following us on Grown Folks Table Radio. And you are listening on Hot 7025 FM. Megan Liana, Tavon Greatness in the building. We about to get into some music. And then we going to measure this I don't give a fuck spectrum. Because clearly Dame Dash don't give a fuck about a lot.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out where I'm at on the Dame Dash meter. That's what I want to know.
That part. So we're going to get into this music and we'll be right back. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Grown Folks Table Radio with Megan Liana. We got Tavon Greatness in the building.
Indeed.
Hot 7025 FM fam representing.
Grown.
All right. So we going to get into this table talk session, the I don't give a fuck spectrum.
All right.
Okay. Because for me, I feel like now that I'm in this early 30s transition.
Welcome to the dirty 30s.
I say flirty 30s.
Flirty 30s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because dirty 30s make me feel like it makes my anxiety act up. So, so I try to call it flirty so I got something to look forward to.
I think that's cool for females to say that too, flirty 30s. That's cool. We can rock with that.
Right. So, yeah, like, and I feel like in this transition, my fucks have changed.
Okay.
In the sense that, like, you know, once upon a time I would say I don't give a fuck and I really, really cared. Yeah. Versus now there are things where it's like, I really don't care. And I realize not caring, in my opinion, is not giving a fuck.
Absolutely.
Like, that's how you really know you don't give a fuck.
That's the urban I don't care.
Right.
Slang phrase. Like, I don't give a fuck. I really don't.
Right. Like, but for me, like, the thing is that I've always been cautious. I've always been, you know, very goal oriented. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? But I've noticed now that I don't give a fuck about that shit. Like, I don't care as much as about my career. I care a lot about my bank account. That'll never change.
Thank God. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But even still, like, I feel like I've transitioned into more like financial security. You know what I mean? Versus like, oh, I gotta have this money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel like there's this transition I'm going through. Have you noticed that as you've transitioned from like your 20s to 30s? Like,
hell yeah. There's so much that I used to care for that I just, you know, going into my 30s and just being in the genre of my career and stuff like that. There was a lot of things that I cared about in the past that I had to realize wasn't necessarily helping me grow. Right. And once I was able to have more self-awareness about myself and then what I feel like helps me become a better man, a better person, there was a lot of stuff that I was just starting to believe, like, okay, this is something that I don't need to hold on to. Therefore, I don't give a fuck about it. Like, it no longer has that test upon my will hold on me. Like, there's a lot of things now that I just look and I'll address them like, no, I don't give a fuck about it.
Right.
And there's no more thought process to it at all. But it's definitely a transition that people go through, but I think it's also something that people have to incorporate as far as growing and making sure that that's what they want.
Right.
As far as not giving a fuck about certain issues, because people that's stuck on the same stuff that didn't happen to them 10, 15 years ago is like, it is not helping you.
Right.
Let that shit go.
So is it safe to say that, you know, in your 20s, it's more of kind of like this reckless, careless, I don't give a fuck mentality versus as you get older, it's an emotional detachment transition?
I believe that's the case. But I think also in your 20s, man, you are really, like, you're just now diving into adulthood and being a sense of freedom and being able to believe that you can just do whatever the fuck you want.
Right.
And so I don't think a lot of people in your 20s have that self-awareness of understanding that you don't have to do everything. You don't have to expand or just live recklessly through all that stuff. I mean, you can if that's how you want to live your life and then pay for it on the back end.
Right.
But it's something that people got to grow into.
Yeah. I think, like, in my 20s, I was trying to prove I didn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? So no, for real though. But like, I would kind of put myself in positions and be like, well, I don't give a fuck, no way. Knowing deep down inside, I kind of did, which is why I put myself in that position in the first place. Right. You know what I mean? And now I'm just like, I don't have an energy for this. I don't give a fuck mentality.
Exactly. Like there's certain things that I just don't have a desire to put energy into.
Right.
Therefore, if it comes my way, no, I don't give a fuck about that. I can move on from that. I don't need to address that. It doesn't need my time nor my energy.
So what is something you can say that for sure you noticed like you really gave a fuck about 5 years ago versus now it's like, nah.
Woo! 5 years ago. And I'll just say in regards to me being a comedian, I really took into consideration every single person's like criticism and critiques. And is once I realized like that everybody wasn't necessarily giving me the best constructive criticism and more like people was really hating on me subliminally, then I was just like, you know what? Taking that and trying to fuel that and trying to work towards just proving those people wrong instead of proving to the people who have been in my corner, who have ushered in an energy for me to go after it and give me constructive criticism. Like I shifted my fucks towards them as opposed to the ones that was shitting on me from the get-go. So that's helped me grow. I also think that like 5 years ago I started not giving a fuck really about other people's opinions about the relationships that I've put together for me.
Okay.
And so like not letting everybody have their outside opinions as to who I should fuck with and who I shouldn't fuck with. Like,
right.
I took that out of consideration as giving a fuck about everybody's opinion.
Right.
So I've narrowed down the people that I give a fuck about.
Right.
And take their advice and their criticisms.
I think for me, the one thing I can say I've transitioned about the fuck I give is stating my opinion. Because for me, like, especially being a Capricorn, I always have to be right. It's like in my nature. And I've always, since I was a kid, I always had to argue my point. Like, you gonna know how I feel. You gonna know the who, what, where, when, why, and how. And that's it. Whether you like it or not, you're gonna know. And you're gonna sit here and you're gonna fucking hear how I feel. Like, you know, and especially in my 20s, you know, I felt like I was grown and you were going to listen to me. Like I was at an age where, oh no, you can't tell me to shut up and sit in a corner. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So it's like, since you can't censor me, since you can't control my mouth, you're going to hear everything I have to say. And now, you know, I could say especially this year, I really don't care even if you know how I feel. Because sometimes I think that it's a waste of energy. Like you spend so much energy you can spend a lot of energy trying to define yourself. You can spend a lot of energy trying to explain yourself to people who don't give a fuck.
Exactly. Who just don't give a fuck.
Who do not give a fuck, who could care less, who literally everything you're saying is going in one ear and out the other, and their only purpose is to argue what you're saying and not even retain the information for like a valid meeting of the minds and, you know, conflict resolution. Yeah. And I used to love the conflict. I used to love you gonna hear this.
It was one of those.
You gonna hear it, and you gonna and if you don't hear it, I will write you. I will email. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna get this point across.
I'm gonna get this point across.
All forms of communication.
Look, it's gonna be a thesis statement with 3 to 5 supporting sentences.
Solid.
Look, I made it very far in college English and you know, philosophy, the art of arguing. So, you know what I mean? And I've gotten to a point where I don't care if you know, because whether you know or not, it may not change your opinion. And if you really want to know, you'll come to me with it. Gotcha. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And I had to stop giving a fuck to just speak out and lash out because it takes a lot of energy. It's draining. It's really, really draining, like explaining yourself to people. You know what I mean? It's really draining sometimes because everybody has their own frame of mind. Right. You know, people have their own motives. And I had to learn the people that really fuck with you, they'll come to you with it. They'll ask you, and that's friends, that's family, that's whatever. You know, they will come to you and say, yo, I noticed your body language changed in this conversation or something, or you gave me that weird face. We good? Everything okay? You know what I'm saying? And I had to learn, you know, you can't give a fuck about having to state your claim because a lot of times motherfuckers don't care.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Motherfuckers just don't.
They don't. And it's not your job to make them care about your feelings or your interpretation. Exactly. You gotta be cool with, you know, sometimes they don't care. And in that, I feel like you have to reciprocate the fucks not given for your peace of mind.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like I've learned, okay, so I think there's 3 levels of not giving a fuck. And you tell me if you agree. Okay. So the level 1 is you really care, but you're mad. So it's like a forced, I don't give a fuck.
Like a reaction?
Yeah.
Like a reaction
where you be like, it's cool, I don't give a fuck no way.
Oh, yeah. That's level 1. Yeah, I got you.
That's level 1.
You know what? Because people are so loose to say that out the gate.
They are.
But then it's almost like when as soon as you say that and have to let it resonate for a second, it's just like, oh, you know what? That did touch me. It touched me a little bit.
Yes. Oh, self-acceptance,
I
right?
didn't give a fuck. But I think I do. I do. I've had people come back to me like, yeah, I remember what I told you. I didn't give a fuck. I had to think about it. And I do give a fuck, man. And that hurt my feelings. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
level 1.
That's level 1.
That's level 1.
So level 2 is you're making it yourself ignore your feelings. So you go through that forced I don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. And then you, like you said, sometimes you reflect and be like, yo, I really do give a fuck. Mm-hmm. But then you be like, sometimes you could be like, I do give a fuck, but fuck that, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. You know what I mean? You're ignoring instead of acknowledging.
Right. Acknowledging it. You're trying to just, I don't give a fuck. You're trying to produce the I don't give a fuckness inside yourself. When yourself is really saying, no, I think you should. You
I
give
feel
a fuck
this
about
shit.
We feel it, bro. Like, we not going to be able to just disregard it with the I don't give a fuck. No, you're going to have to give a fuck for a second.
At least a second or a minute, right?
Yeah, okay, level 2. That's cool.
To be honest, okay, I have a rule. I give myself 24 hours. I
think everybody should have died.
You got it. I give myself, I acknowledge I give a fuck. I acknowledge my anger. And I'll let it fester for 24 fucking hours. And that's after that, because I feel like you got to feel it.
Yeah.
Get through it. Go through it. So I give myself those 24 hours. And then I reach the level of I don't give a fuck. Which is you feel nothing.
Okay.
You know, and I feel like to really not give a fuck, you can't have feelings if you give a fuck, right?
You can't. Yeah, that goes against the I don't give a fuck. Right.
You know what I mean? So I feel like it's those 3 stages. And then sometimes it's like, I really feel nothing. And then I'm like, shit, cool. I'm going to go about my day easy breezy. But, absolutely. You know, I feel like a lot of people are really in the forced I don't give a fuck level.
Absolutely.
And the ignoring the fuck you give level.
Exactly.
And it's like I feel like it's a blank statement. You know what I mean? And I feel like, you know, sometimes you got to give a fuck to not give a fuck.
Absolutely. You got to. I also feel like a lot of people who are quick to say, I don't give a fuck. Like, I think it's also like one of the most convenient defense mechanisms for people,
right?
To scream that. But I also think like those people, like I used to have a friend who, and that was his thing. Like, I don't care, I don't give a fuck, I don't care. And I'm like, after a while, I started listening to it, and I was like, you know, you haven't given a fuck in like 5 years, dude. Like, and then so what do you actually care about? You know, and so I think a lot of people who go through that, who say that or are quick to say I don't give a fuck, are the people who need to figure out exactly what it is that you care about, because there's so many avenues and levels to your everyday life that if you just going around trying to produce this numb feeling to the world, you're missing out on opportunities to heal yourself. I know that there's a lot of people that's out here that's broken and go through life with depression and go through life with mental issues, and it's like you see them really walking aimlessly through life, and it's just like that's a zombie. That's just like a zombie movement that I don't even really agree with. So I just tell people, like, I know you don't give a fuck. I know you a thug, my nigga. But what I want you to do is find what it is that you do care about.
But you know what I've noticed with people like that? The only fuck they give is about themselves.
But even to that degree, it's like you give a fuck about yourself, but you're not growing at all. You just care about you. So whatever is coming your way, if it's damaging to you, you're quick to say you don't give a fuck. But then you're also something that might, like, for instance, how we were talking about Dame Dash earlier. If you're in a business and you're operating your business, but you don't give a fuck, and there's people that's trying to throw gems and jewels your way, trying to help you increase your business, but they might be coming off a little off-putting and stuff like that. You having this shut down wall of I don't give a fuck what he's saying or stuff like that, you're missing. You're missing you're missing the message that you're supposed to be incorporating to help you with your business. It's not necessarily always the most successful person that you just need to take the advice from. There's been instances there's been instances with me doing comedy where I've taken criticisms from a comedian who, I know you're not funnier than me. I know you're not going to be more successful than me, but I didn't shit on you for that. You know what I mean? I took the criticism that you have for me, and instead of me saying, no, I don't give a fuck about what you're saying. You're beneath me. I took it, and honestly, I took it. I actually sat on it, and I applied it, and it worked. And I reached out to him, and I was like, look, man, I appreciate the advice that you gave. And he was like, yo, that's cool, because he was like, I wasn't trying to come off as feeling like I was better than you or anything like that. I was like, no, and I didn't take offense to that. I was just, because he was like,
gem.
Yeah, it's a gem. But a lot
of
people with that shutdown mentality, I don't give a fuck mentality, will miss those. Just because you're just putting it out there that you don't give a fuck about nothing.
And to add to that, like, you know, for me, when I was building my business, I was the only one out of all my friends who had a business. You know what I mean? But let me tell you, when business was down, and for real, it's hard. It's hard being in business. It's hard, you know, having to build something from scratch. And let me tell you, all my friends who don't have a business were the same ones who were pumping me up, like, girl, keep going, keep this, keep, you know what I mean? Just the vibe and the positivity that I received from them and the encouragement was what kept me going. You know what I mean? Because I had business owner mentors, and they couldn't reach me at that low point. You know what I mean? And it was being receptive to the people who loved me and who wanted the best for me. And I think, to add to what you're saying, you know, sometimes the I don't give a fuck mentality can be detrimental to your growth. You know,
please give a fuck about something.
You gotta care about something. You know what I mean? So I agree 100%. You know, you gotta open up, you gotta receive those gems, and you have to give a fuck about that self-reflection. Because every situation you can learn from. Every situation. You know what I mean? Even walking to the store, something could happen. You could be like, damn, I should watch where I'm going and look both ways before I cross that fucking street.
Right on. 'Cause that's just a dangerous game, to just walk through life every day just not giving a fuck. And I remember I had like a time season when I was in that stage of just not giving a fuck. And it was just because things around me, things were just not in order. Like, I was in the process of being hella behind on bills, being evicted, trying to figure out how to do work and school, and then going to school and trying to live the lifestyle in Atlanta. It was like everything was just going. So if you wasn't trying to help me with the exact needs that I needed. If you weren't trying to get, I didn't give a fuck about none of that. I didn't give a fuck about the community service that people was wanting me to do. I didn't give a fuck about the parties that people was wanting me to go to. I was like, no, I don't give a fuck about none of that. But then I sat down and got some jewels from sources that I didn't necessarily seek out, but they just reached out because they saw me and they was like, yo, you need to give a fuck about something right now.
Right.
And I know it's tough. And even like with being in business, with wanting to be a boss and creating and building your ideas from scratch, that shit is draining. And you have to make sure that you, for one, are prepared to take on the good, the bad, and the ugly of all that, because it's going to be there.
Right.
And depending on how successful you want to get after it, you know, the harder shit may be.
Right.
But what you can't do is believe that you're going to build this multi-million, billion-dollar business not giving a fuck about what anybody has to say,
True.
what anybody is doing or not doing to you or for you. You're not going to be able to make it that way. So
Very
give a fuck
true.
about something.
Give a fuck about something.
That
All right.
helps you.
Yes. And on that note, we're going to get into some music and we'll be right back. Grown Folks Table Radio. Grown Folks Table Radio with Megan Liana. We got Tavon Greatness in the building.
Yeah. This has been fun, by the way.
Thank you for joining the table. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
Table talk. It gets real,
It
right?
gets real. It's real. Grown subject matters and all that.
Right.
So
it's real. It's raw. It's reflective. That's
Yeah.
what Grown Folks Table Radio is. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like a well-educated uncle in here right now.
All right, so real quick, we're going to get into the top 5 signs that you really give a fuck.
All right.
Okay? So, 5.
Starting from 5? Okay.
Starting from 5.
Number 5.
You posting subs about it on social media.
Ding, 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 ding.
Like, I'm sorry. And I don't want to see I don't give a fuck hashtags. If you got to post a sub on social media, you care.
You do.
You do. It's on
What
your
I
mind.
like to see is when people post they don't give a fuck on social media and then get mad at people not acknowledging them not giving a fuck on social media, and then their follow-up post is don't nobody give a fuck with what the fuck I got to say.
Right. But apparently you don't give a fuck either, so why are you even saying it?
Why are you wanting us to you just did that for the likes.
Exactly. Boom.
And
okay.
then you didn't get any. So now you're upset.
Harsh reality. Okay, number 4.
Number 4.
You've brought it up to 3 different people or more within the first 24 hours since it happened. It's on your mind. You can't stop talking about it. If you gotta bring it up to every person you see, and then end with I don't give a fuck though, baby, you give a fuck. Okay? Is it safe to say that?
It is safe to say that. I would hope. I always want to see the people who go to their consult team when they say they don't give a fuck. Because what they're looking for is just you shouldn't give a fuck.
And to add to that brings us to number 3.
Number 3.
You're looking for validation and sympathy for your anger and feelings. If you got to hit the consult team, you give a fuck. Cool? Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 2. You told your mom what happened. And you had the group chat lit.
Okay. Yeah, that's a solid 2.
Right?
That's a solid 2.
Like, you had to hit the group chat and your mama. Like, when I tell my mama about something, I really give a
Yeah. When the parents start getting the bulk of the conversation, that's when you really care.
Okay. And number 1, to really know you give a fuck, you're holding back tears when you think about it. That means you got some feelings, baby.
That means it cut deep.
It cut deep, and it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge it.
Yeah, it cut deep.
That's
That's a solid top 5. I agree with those. That's a solid top 5.
We agree. So that's how we know you really give a fuck, right?
That's how we know you give a fuck.
Okay. So we done dropped some gems
Absolutely.
about the I don't give a fuck spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you guys enjoyed it.
I definitely did.
I really
hope
did
everybody
too.
Tuned in.
I enjoyed your insight.
Yes.
Welcome to Grown Folks Table Radio. Megan Liana, special guest co-host Tavon Greatness in the building on Hot 7025 FM. We out here. It's Saturday. Y'all enjoy the rest of the day.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. All that good stuff. Y'all enjoy.